Hey, everybody, welcome to the nation. That's BBQ Nation. I'm JT, along with my co host, Barbecue Hall of Famer Leanne Whippen, coming to you from our respective Turn It, Don't Burn It studios on the East and West Coast, as you might say. We'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. And speaking of Hall of Famers, our other favorite Hall of Famer, I got to take care of the in-house stuff first, as you know, Meathead. Our other favorite Hall of Famer, Meathead Goldwyn from AmazingRibs.com is joining us again today. We haven't had you on the show for, 4 months or something? It's been a while. We had like delirium tremors and stuff.
Yeah, I miss you.
I miss you guys too. Good to be back with you.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're here. Hey, we've got Easter coming up. And regardless of people's beliefs, Easter is a big dinner day. I'll just put it that way. I can remember many a dried out ham on my mom's Easter table. so, and that's kind of, to me, that's kind of the main dish for a lot of people is ham, but people serve other things too, lamb and what have you. But I wanted to kind of get you to run over real quick the preparation of ham, what to look for when you're buying ham. I always buy spiral cut hams. I cheat. I buy really good spiral cut hams, and we go with that. So, your thoughts?
Well, ham. There are variations of ham. Ham is technically just a hind leg from a hog, so you can buy a ham that is raw, just like a pork butt or a shoulder or ribs or whatever. And you can grill it or smoke it or slice it up into steaks. You can do all kinds of great stuff with it. But most of what we think of when we think of ham is ham that has been cured. And that curing process is the meat is coated with salt, and salt which has sodium nitrite and nitrate in it. And those are preservatives. And this goes back centuries to when, before there was refrigeration, the curing process was a way to keep meat through winter. You would slaughter the hogs in the fall, and you would pack it in a barrel, and you would put this preservative, sodium nitrite and nitrate, on it, and it would preserve the ham. It also made it bright pink and also gave it a nifty flavor. And this sodium nitrite is used also on bacon, hot dogs, pastrami, or corned beef. If you've been to Disney World and you've had those turkey legs that everybody loves, those big giant they're all cured meats, and they're all cured with sodium nitrite or nitrate or both. There's a very slight difference. One, sodium nitrite is just fine if you want to do your own curing at home. And I have a big section on AmazingRibs.com on how to cure meat, and we have a technique for curing ham there. But it takes a long time. It can take weeks because the salt and the nitrite are slow moving through dense meat. So you need to get it all the way through. But it's not hard. You have to use a calculator, and we have that calculator. In fact, we have the only calculator that is interactive on the internet, where you can enter the weight and the shape of the meat, and it'll calculate how long it takes to cure. But I mean, if you've never made your own bacon, you're in for a treat. Homemade ham, delicious. But if you buy a ham that's already cured, it's already, usually it's pre-cooked. Now you want to check. It'll tell you if it's pre-cooked. If it's pre-cooked, all you have to do is warm it. You can pop it in the oven and you bring it up to about 140, 145, and you're ready to go. And especially a spiral slice, that for sure is all pre-cooked.
Oh, yeah.
But you can warm it on the grill and give it extra smoke. And fresh smoke is better than old smoke. And when they cure it and then they cook it, they usually smoke it, so you get that bacony kind of flavor. But what I love to do is I'll get one of those hams and I'll throw it in the smoker on a low temperature, bring it up to about 140, 145, but get a fresh layer of smoke on it. And boy, that's delicious.
Mhm.
And if you have a spiral cut, you can kind of fan it out so the smoke will get in between the cracks. And then a lot of people like to give it a glaze. We have a recipe for a glaze, and there's a bazillion different ways to glaze it. You can just go get a jar of peach jam and paint it on there. But we have a recipe from a mutual friend, Chris Lilly.
Yeah.
And Chris, also a barbecue Hall of Famer. And we have his apricot glaze on the website. It's apricot, mustard, and other good stuff in there. And it makes a marvelous glaze. And you can throw it on the smoker. And we have got a whole technique of a system for that on AmazingRibs.com. We kind of smoke it first, then we glaze it and wrap it in foil so the glaze will set, and you get some nice drippings out of that too, which
Oh,
makes
yeah.
a really nice gravy. So if the ham does tend to dry out or be dry, you can pour this on. So it's a lot of fun, and it's very seasonal. It goes back to the days when hog killing time was in the fall. But also, let's not forget lamb. You mentioned lamb. There's just an awful lot of people out there who've never tasted lamb. I mean, they think they've tasted lamb and they don't like it because they've had badly cooked lamb. But if you love steak, if you love red meat, if you love beef, you need to do some lamb chops from either the loin chops or rib chops, or a whole rack of lamb, and treat it just like beef. Cook it to
Yeah.
medium rare, 135. Actually, I like lamb a little more cooked than beef, up around 140. But by golly, that's a good flavor. If you put me equidistance between a loin chop from a lamb and a ribeye from a steer, I think I'd die of starvation trying to decide which one to eat first.
Now, we've seen you in person actively go
Yeah.
after lamb off the grill and in the pan. So
Yeah, I was using my sharp elbows to get past you. Yes, we were in Texas, and there was a guy cooking some lamb outdoors, and it was tasty, wasn't it?
oh yeah. Yeah. And
One of my favorites. I love lamb.
I love lamb too. And you're a little shorter than I am, but I was surprised at how damn quick you could get that arm in there and get that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. Medium rare loin chops, which are T-bones. Lamb loin chops are T-bones,
Mhm.
or porterhouses, but they have a T-bone in it, and they have the two different pieces of meat on either side of the T-bone. That's a lamb loin chop. And typically you want them about 1 to 1.5 inches thick. And I do a simple marinade for them. Or you get what is called a rack of lamb, which is the same thing as a beef rib primal. It's where all the beef ribs are lined up. And that's a ribeye. Those are ribeye steaks in there with the rib bones and everything. But a rack of lamb is 8 bones, and it's maybe 10 inches long. So 2 bones is a modest serving. And I like to cut them into 2-bone sections.
Mhm.
So those chops are fairly thick, and oh man, they are just delicious.
Well, that's kind of how they make crown roast too.
Yeah.
With just
Yeah.
make a nice little circle and cook it, and
Yeah.
I love it. And plus, I think the presentation, which I'm kind of into, but I think that presentation is marvelous when you put a whole crown roast up there.
So, we've got Easter, and we're talking about the meats, but it's spring, and here comes the asparagus.
Yes.
And I mean, I think asparagus is the best vegetable on the grill. I just give it a very light coat of olive oil, sprinkle it with some salt or some rubs. I'll hit it with an herby rub. My poultry rub is parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, and more.
Yes.
And I hit it with a sprinkle or 2 of that, and throw it on the grill. There's one little tiny trick, and that is asparagus tends to be fat on one end and skinny on the other. 2 tiny tricks. If it's really fat and woody at one end, you can either break off that thick end and it snaps right off, or peel it with a potato peeler. And
Mhm.
there's this crazy idea out there that the fat asparagus isn't as good as skinny asparagus. It's just that woody coating on it. You peel that off, and it's just as good as the little baby skinny asparagus. Asparagus?
Spare guy.
Asparaguses?
Interesting.
Asparaguses? Asparagus? Um, but the other trick is when you grill them, the tips, which has got like a kind of little flour on the end, will tend to char. And I like that little bit of char. I don't mind it. And in fact, I don't mind if there's little char spots along the stem, but you don't want to burn the end. And so you want to keep an eye on them. And if the tips start to blacken, I hang them over the edge of the grill.
Mhm.
Yep.
Or if I'm just working on a gas grill, I have a couple of burners on, a couple of burners off, and let those tips hang out over the off burners while the thicker parts are on the on burners, so I don't immolate the tips.
Yeah.
And then you can serve them as is. They're good at room temp. I mean, if you've got I often will cook the asparagus first and then the lamb or the meat after and serve them at room temp. They're nice with a drizzle of balsamic. And if you have grocery store balsamic, you can take grocery store balsamic, put it in a little saucepan and reduce it. Now you got to be careful if you reduce it at too high a temperature or too long, it'll turn to candy. It'll,
Mhm.
it'll become like taffy. So you just reduce it and turn it into a syrup. And that balsamic syrup is marvelous. You can do all
Mhm.
kinds of fun stuff with that. And I'll put a drizzle of that on the asparagus, maybe a couple of shavings of Parmigiano Reggiano, real
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Parmesan from Italy. Um, springtime. I mean, hallelujah! I'm here up in the frozen north. I'm here in Chicago. I know you're in a cold climate, Jeff,
Yeah.
but Leanne was smart enough. She used to be in Chicago and bailed on us into the
Uh-huh.
Sunshine State down there. But we've got our daffodils and tulips popping, and it's just the robins are everywhere. It's just
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
hallelujah time.
We got to
Mhm.
take a break. We're going to be back on the nation with Meathead Goldwyn and Miss Whippen and myself right after this.
Boy, I can talk, can't I?
You do a great
can.
job.
You do.
That's one thing about working with you. I only have to come up with about 4 questions for the whole show.
Just wind him up and turn him loose.
Turn him loose. Yep. Okay, here we go. Hey, welcome back to BBQ Nation. I'm JT along with Leanne Whippen, and today we've got Meathead Goldwyn from AmazingRibs.com. If you want to reach out to us, we're on all the platforms. You can reach us through the website, all that. I don't need to list them all, but we're there. So, and also Amazing Ribs is there. It's AmazingRibs.com, but he doesn't always put AmazingRibs.com on all the handles there. But you can reach out to any of us if you've got a question. I've got a quick sidebar question for you, Meathead. I actually had somebody ask me this the other day, and I thought and I'm not being silly or rude, would you explain kosher to people, please?
I don't know the rules all that well, but it's very similar to what Muslims do. There's historical biblical laws for how one treats food. And it is roughly believed that the kosher laws were designed with health in mind. For
Mhm.
example, pork. Neither Jews nor Muslims eat pork, and that's part of their dietary laws. And it's believed it's because pigs were filthy and susceptible to trichinosis and other. So instead of worrying about, well, you got to get a digital thermometer. I mean, we're talking about,
Yeah.
before Christ. They just said, don't eat the stuff. And it also had to do with the slaughtering methods. Blood was considered unclean. And so that you had to slaughter properly and drain the carcass of blood. There's a lot of weirdness to it. Like you couldn't have dairy and beef together or at the same time, which I don't get.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no
yeah.
compound butter on your steaks.
Yeah.
But you know, only the most religious Jews follow the laws of kosher. It's not widely practiced.
I was just curious because I thought that, and I've been to some of these places where they have a special, I'm talking about beef now. They have a special slaughterhouse that just does kosher, and then there's usually a rabbi or somebody that's, can make that,
Always.
can make
There
a
has to
decision.
be a rabbi in a slaughterhouse for it to be kosher, and he has to observe the process and then get paid.
Yeah. Okay.
And
All
it is
right.
often joked that this is the rabbi full employment program.
Okay.
And
All right. No, I get it. I didn't have, other than knowing that there were specific ways that the animal had to be slaughtered and the rabbis had to be present. I honestly didn't know in depth about it,
Yeah, I don't know much about it either because I haven't followed the practice in all my entire life. I was born Jewish, but I don't practice the religion, so I don't know much about the details. I do know, for example, that I'm pretty sure that the slaughtering technique for steers and others are you slit the throat.
Yes.
In many contemporary non-kosher slaughterhouses, the animal is essentially shot in the head. It's a bolt
Yeah,
that
it's a
is
stun gun kind of thing with a
yeah,
bolt
I
in it.
think kosher slaughterhouses they slit the throat to drain the animal of blood in the whole part, and the meat is often salted to draw the blood out because blood is thought to be unclean.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. I'm going to switch topics here just for a little bit. AmazingRibs.com with its CEO and head Mahu here recently purchased some incredible videos and
Yeah,
from the barbecue stars. Tell us
way
about
back
that.
in 2019, a lady, Shelley Brander in Tulsa, had a business where she did videos with people who do knitting. And knitting is more than just doing wool caps and sweaters.
Right.
It's an art form. I had no idea until I saw some of her videos. And there are artists who knit, and there are very talented craft. In any case, she did a series of videos of people who knit and sold them as a subscription on the internet, and it did very well. She got wealthy, and it turns out she was a buddy of Richard Alexander of Hasty Bake. Hasty Bake is a really fine charcoal grill, one of my all-time favorites.
Right.
I have one, and they're fantastic. And they're based in Tulsa, and he and Shelley were buddies, played tennis together, I think. And he said, "Hey, you're doing all this with knitting. Why don't you do it with barbecue? I bet it'd be a big hit." So he went out with her and rounded up 12 barbecue stars. And there's a really good menu of tip-top barbecue cooks. And they sent a first-rate video team to them, the same team everywhere. So there's a consistency across. And they shot videos of them, recipes, techniques, concepts, biographical information. There's yours truly, Kent Rollins. If you've never seen Kent Rollins, just Google it. Listen, anybody look Kent, Kent. He's the he's another cowboy cook.
Yeah.
Kent is a chuck wagon cook, a legit chuck wagon cook. I mean, he follows cattle drives and cooks for them, and he's got really clever and unique techniques, and he's really funny, and he's really talented. And a few years ago, he married a lovely young woman, and she works with him now, holds the camera and talks to him and tells him what. Yeah. Great stuff. Harry Sue out of Southern Cal. Harry's of Asian background, and there's a lot of Asian flavors in his food, and he's really smart, really clever, a great teacher. Matt from Meat Church, out of Texas. Matt does a lot of creative stuff. He works a lot with pellet grills. Dave Buska, Butcher Barbecue. He did all of us did about 10 videos, 10 short videos, about 10 minutes each. And Dave did all 10 of his videos on preparing chicken for competitions. So if you're thinking about competing, and a lot of competition cooks say chicken is their disaster, their
Nemesis.
nightmare,
Yeah,
their
yeah.
nemesis. He's got the whole process laid out for you there. The two guys who started the Steak Cook-Off Association, Brett and Ken, and they talk about cooking beef and steak and how they do it for the steak cook-offs and the championships. And then, of course, the one and only Barbecue Hall of Famer, Tuffy Stone, who I think everybody who's into barbecue has either heard of him or worships Tuffy. And Tuffy's marvelous. They even follow him down to the river near his house where he does some fly fishing and interview him there. Ariane Dogan, she's from the west coast of France, Brittany, where her family raises geese and ducks for foie gras, and she imports them. She lives in Jersey now, and she runs D'Artagnan, which is the biggest supplier of foie gras, but you also can get duck breast and game and all kinds of wonderful stuff, and she cooks. It's just there are a couple other restaurant chefs, Dean Fearing from Dallas and Tim Grandinetti, their restaurant, and these guys are really good. So there's like 10 videos from each of them. And they're really fun. They're well done. They're educational. And we bought the whole lot of them, 120 videos. We're going to give them free to our Pitmaster Club members. Now, this subscription to the Barbecue Stars series cost $299 when it rolled out in 2019. Membership in our Pitmaster Club is $35.
Right.
So you're getting all of these videos, originally $299 for $35. I sound like late Ron Popeil here, don't I? But it's tremendous. We bought the whole shooting match, 120 videos, and they're going to be free. We just announced it last week. We haven't made them available to the members yet because there's a technical thing about linking the two websites.
Right.
So members can get in and out and stuff. But members will be getting, within the next few weeks, all these videos for free. So if you're a former member who resigned, come on back. If you've been thinking about it, you can get a 30-day free trial. Come on down, and tremendous. I mean, there's lots of benefits to membership in the Pitmaster Club. Jeff, I know you've been in there a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of benefits, a lot of cool stuff, free ebooks, free magazines, all kinds of fun stuff. But this really is cool.
All right, everybody, come on down to Meathead Goldwyn's AmazingRibs.com and get your free video subscription today. Was $99.99, but today it's free. And we're going to take a break here on Barbecue Nation and be right back with Meathead and Leanne right after this.
Hey, JT, do me a favor. You can just call me Meathead and skip the Goldwyn part.
Okay. All right.
I'm like Madonna or Cher. I'm just one name.
One name. All right.
More facial hair, though.
That we know of. So, okay, here we go. Welcome back to the nation. I'm JT with Meathead and Leanne today. Again, thanks to Painter Hills Natural Beef the way nature intended. And also, here's your time to shine, Leanne. Pig powder. Pig powder is
my dad's best rub on the planet. I use it in competition, as do many other cooks. But I have a special today.
Here we go.
Here we go. First time ever, we have given a discount on the website. And if you type in BBQ Nation save, you will save 10% on your order.
Well, there
you go. Is that all one word, BBQ Nation save, or?
Yes, all one word. Thank you for asking. Yes, I just put it in today and it is active.
I like that stuff. It's very good.
It's good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come on down to Leanne Whippen's grocery store here on West Shore Boulevard in Tampa.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, we don't we love this show, but we never promote. I mean, this is really rare. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, unusual to hear us promoting
It
our
is.
stuff.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah.
now have you got anything to sell, Jeff? Because the two of us have already done ours.
Right.
Well, I used to. I don't anymore, but I used to. Yeah. If they want to talk to me about golf clubs, then maybe off the air we'll talk about that.
Aha. For folks who don't know, Jeff is a serious golfer and a serious golf promoter, and he runs charity golf events and does interviews with famous golfers who love to cook.
Yep.
And he's and also, you know, I don't know if you're doing anything actively with horses anymore.
Nope.
But you're a horseman too.
Yeah, I retired from that, and I'm paying the price now for all those years, as we used to call it, slapping leather. I'm like at the doctor every month getting something fixed, you know. But yeah, I did.
Hemorrhoids?
No. Knees, backs, necks, that kind of stuff. So it's and today I get to go to a podiatrist, so they're going to fix my feet this time. I don't know what the hell's going on with me, but it's all good. You wrote the other day on social media, it's been a week or so, Meathead, and I found this kind of fascinating but also true from sitting in this chair now for what, 8 years or something. You were talking about barbecue snobbery. Now, I don't want to offend anybody. That's not why we're bringing this up, but there is some basis for that. Because some people,
I'll offend people.
okay. But, and I want Leanne to jump in on this too, because it seems like that some of the people that are in the competitive world, and I've never met one I really didn't like. I mean, they were all great people, but they tend not to, you know, the weekend warrior at home on their deck, and they've got a Weber gas grill, and they like that, and they tend to look down, and that's just a made up scenario there, but they tend to look down on those people a skosh because they're not in the competitive world. They're not doing a brisket, you know, every 6 hours type thing like that. And that's my take, but I'll start with Meathead, but I wanted to also get Leanne's take on this.
Yeah, I was once the wine critic for the Washington Post and syndicated Chicago Tribune, a bunch of other papers, and I lived in the wine world for 20 years, and I know snobbery when I see it.
Yeah.
And in the past few years, I've been sniffing it more and more in the barbecue world, and it's been a little concerning to me. It starts with I was in the grocery store line once, and somebody was buying a bunch of hot dogs and hamburgers, and the cashier said, "Oh, looks like a barbecue coming up." And the guy in line behind the guy buying the hot dogs and hamburgers says, "That's not barbecue. That's just grilling," you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh Jesus, you know, you're drawing. And then I see this a lot, particularly on social media. If you're cooking on a gas grill, you might as well be cooking indoors. And you know, it's like, oh, so you dig a trench in your yard, you burn logs, you throw the burned logs into the trench, then you lay green twigs across the top, and you cook whole animals on those embers over the logs. Is that how you cook? You know, it's like, oh, and that's the response to pellet grills. You know, oh, pellet grills. That's not barbecue. And it's like, okay, so you're doing it in a trench, you know, and
Yeah.
and it's just unfortunate. You know, the world is full of people who, when they have knowledge, like to demonstrate it and like to separate themselves from the rest. And I see it often. I mean, there's still a lot of people who think barbecue was invented in the United States. They've
Right.
been grilling and barbecuing in China and Mesopotamia long before. Or you got to be using an offset smoker. There's just, it's very frustrating. And you see it on social media a lot from people who wish to establish themselves as mavens, and it concerned because I see it a lot more, I think, lately, and they're putting people down because they love to have their neighbors over for a barbecue, and it's hot dogs and hamburgers.
We had before you jump in here, Leanne. I've never told Leanne this. We had Dave Raymond on from Sweet
Oh.
Baby Ray's. Okay,
Mhm.
what, last year sometime, and he was a
Mhm.
great guest. He was a lot of
Mhm.
fun. I got a message through the website or something that said there is no room for corn syrup. What do I want to say? I'm debating me
Liquid
now.
smoke.
Yeah, look, but there's no room for that in real barbecue.
Yeah.
In criticizing Sweet Baby Ray's, and I'm like, it's the
Mhm.
#1 selling sauce in the whole bloody world.
Mhm.
So, if you don't
If you
like it,
don't like it, don't buy it.
don't buy it. Yeah, yeah, and I didn't even respond to that one. Usually, I'm pretty good at responding, but I don't want to get in this argument with you because, one, there's no upside for us and the show for Leanne and myself, but also I like I actually think you're wrong. If people like it, use it, go on with it.
Well, but the problem is surrounding the words real barbecue. I hear that
Yeah,
all the time. That's
right.
not real barbecue, and that's exclusionary, and it's unfortunate. And the other one, and you meant, because most commercial barbecue sauces have liquid smoke in it.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that's the other one. Everybody hates liquid smoke. And it's like, it's made the exact same way they make scotch and bourbon. It's just distilled and condensed. So if you can't y- abide liquid smoke and barbecue sauce, put down your scotch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good argument. Good
Yeah.
argument.
Very good. Very good. Okay, Leanne, your turn. Jump in there.
Well, when I became a Pit Boss ambassador, obviously I, in the past, have cooked on eggs, jambos, competition. And I experienced this firsthand because how could you cook on a pellet cooker? That's not barbecue. Da 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 da. Well, it goes back to the same thing. What is the true definition of barbecue? And it doesn't have to be, competition barbecue to be good barbecue. And it's all about how you want to cook your food. And if a pellet grill is going to give you that experience of barbecue for yourself, and it's easier so that you don't have to maintain a fire overnight and, learn how to cook with charcoal, yada, then that's your prerogative. So it's an option for you. And it's a great option for those who don't have the time and they need that convenience. So I'm a huge proponent of pellet grills. It's not to say that I don't like the others, but don't slam Pit Boss and myself because it doesn't fall into your definition of what you do.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's the thing.
I sat down once years ago and tried to do the impossible, and that is define the word barbecue. And I mean, there people all the time, oh, it's indirect cooking. Oh, it's cooking over logs. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. So I just tried to take the historical definitions. What
Right.
was it originally? Going back to the barbacoa
Right.
from the Taino Indians and so on, and all the definitions people throw at you. And I finally came up with a condensation. It's food that's cooked with smoke and fire.
Mhm.
Period.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with what you cook it on. In fact, in many places, particularly the Carolinas, I think you guys both know, to them, barbecue is a noun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pulled pork. That's barbecue.
Yeah.
It's pulled
Yeah.
pork. That's barbecue, and it's not beef. It's not chicken. It's not nothing else.
That's right.
And I mean, so everybody's got their own definition. The one thing they all have in common is smoke and fire. So, is there smoke and fire in a pellet cooker? Yes,
Yes,
there is.
Yes, there is. Well, and I would recommend to people, really truthfully, if you want to educate yourself on the history of barbecue, read Robert Moss's work, read Joe Hayes's work, read Adrian Miller's work. in their books. And I know you have some in your books too, and we have some that we've discussed and talked about, written about, whatever. But those guys take it beyond today. They go back to the islands, they go back to Africa, they go back to Spain, they go, and the barbacoa and all this stuff, as you were just mentioning. One thing that drives me nuts in the world is ignorance. Just drives me bat crazy. So
Well,
anyway,
it's one thing to be uninformed,
yeah,
and that is a category, if you will, of ignorance. The other is to be deliberately ignoring the information, and that's a different category of ignorance. And I don't have any room for that.
yeah, yeah. That's it. It just kind of drives me nuts, and that's just a personal stance of mine. But I will say that if you like pellet grills, I have a couple of them. As Leanne knows, she's been here. I have charcoal grills. I have gas grills. I have flat tops. I have 2-burner cookers. I have an old offset that I bought for $150 20 years ago. I still got it. I use them all.
Yeah.
But I probably actually use my pellet and my gas more because it's quicker for when it's just me and my wife here for dinner. I just do it that way. Anyway, we've got to take a break. We're going to be back with Meathead Goldwyn from AmazingRibs.com and Ms. Leanne Whippen from, what do you want me to say? Pig Powder, and the Hall of Fame, and both of them are Hall of Famers. So we'll be back.
Changes on a daily basis.
Changes on a daily basis. Okay, we'll be back in just a minute. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the nation. I'm JT. We want to thank the Oregon Crab Commission. As I've said many times lately on the show, Leanne had her first bites of Oregon Dungeness crab last fall when she was up here working with me on the show. And I've got to get Meathead out here to
New sponsor. Didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Out of this world.
It's not going to do me any good. About 30 years ago, I went.
Oh, that's right. You can't.
You have an allergy.
And I developed I broke out in hives, and I can't. And I'll tell you, if you can't eat crab, there's no reason to live. I contemplated suicide. I tell you, soft shell crab was my favorite food on earth, and now I can't eat it.
Wow.
So,
well, we came up with some fun recipes that we did on the TV version of the golf show, which will be coming out a little later actually probably closer to summer now. And it's great to cook with. It's great to eat. It's just incredible stuff. So our thanks to the Oregon Crab Commission for sponsoring us and sponsoring the TV version of Grilling at the Green. What is more important? And we've got like 8.5 minutes left, or 8 minutes left here at Meathead. This kind of continues what we were talking about the last segment. I think for this show, other barbecue shows, other food shows, there's a lot of them now. There's almost 10,000 food podcasts out there. I think it's more important to get the basics down and get to where you're comfortable than it is to try to emulate, cutting the money muscle out of a brisket. As you progress, that's great if you want to do that. I think I'm all for you. But I think really getting people basic techniques, what to look for, if you're seeing flames shoot out of whatever type of cooker you have 4 feet in the air, maybe something's wrong. You know what I mean? So,
Jeff, you talk about barbecue snobbery. What you just said, you're probably going to get a bunch of emails because you said money muscle out of the brisket. Do you know how much you're going to hear about money muscle being out of a pork butt?
I heard it too, and I was hoping.
I know.
Money muscle is a muscle that is attached to a pork butt,
right?
And not a brisket. But that's okay.
And he knows that. But some people slip up. Yeah, but I'm just anyway.
I'll hear about it. Trust me, I'll hear about it. Believe me, it's not the worst thing I've ever said on the air. So.
Well, I mean, this is something the three of us have in common, and I'm sure most of your guests do. We're all about education. I mean, AmazingRibs.com is all about technique. We call it the Meathead Method because I have developed a series of techniques. I have a book that's done very well, 250,000 copies so far, which is pretty
That's
unusual for a
incredible.
cookbook.
Yeah.
And it starts at the beginning and explains what is fire, what is smoke, what is heat, what is energy, and all the different types of meats. And then it goes through the different techniques and the different cookers and the recipes. And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, there are an awful lot of people. I just happened to see somebody on Twitter the other day who was cooking a bunch of chicken wings on top of aluminum foil on their gas grill. They laid aluminum foil out on top of the gas grill, and this is something a lot of people did in the past. I haven't seen much of it lately, but we want them to understand that they're not getting any smoke and they're not getting any fire.
Right.
And it's fine. I mean, you might as well be cooking on a frying pan or something, and that you can make darn good wings that way, but they're not getting the smoke and fire benefit, which is a flavoring ingredient.
Well, yeah, and I think it's in a situation like that, just the way you explained it is perfect because yeah, you can cook them that way, and if that's what blows your skirt up, so to speak, maybe I shouldn't say that, but do it, do it. If that's what your family likes, if that's what you like, go ahead.
Taste is a matter of taste, and
Yeah.
one person's trash is another person's treasure, and on and on and on. If the food tastes good, and if I never talk about health and what's healthy and what's not healthy because I don't frankly think anybody knows, and it's constantly changing. But as long as you're not doing something dangerous and foolish, do what the hell you like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at my food pyramid, it's like barbecue, deep fried shrimp. You just go right on down. Graham
Crab,
crackers. Huh? Crab?
crab.
Oh yeah, a lot of
Crab,
crab. Uh at the bottom would be graham crackers and frosting, which was a treat when I was a kid, That was very good. So I'm not one to condemn or criticize or even question people's own personal food pyramids. That would not be wise on my part like that. Leanne, what's the most important to you when you're working with people? Teaching them how to cut the money muscle out of a leg of lamb, or to really get the basic techniques down and explain how relevant they are.
A lot of people that I meet, they start off saying, "It's nice to meet you, but I have some questions for you."
Yeah.
And I enjoy that because, at least it tells me that they know that I know what I'm doing to a certain degree, and that I can give the advice that's going to help them, make their food better and make it a more enjoyable experience. So it is about education. I agree 100%. So that is super important to me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all the stuff I've done over the years on television, um, I tend to try to throw in the little tidbits, the little tips, just like you were talking about in the previous segment, Meathead, with cooking the asparagus on the grill,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So you want a little char on the end, but you don't want them just black and terrible. So you put them off on the cool side, things like that. I try to intertwine those into what I'm doing. And that way I think people can, if they're paying attention, or they can go back and watch it later, they see those little nuggets in there, and maybe that helps somebody.
Well, there's still a lot of people, let's not forget, who don't know how to cook at all, indoors or out,
That's
or are
true.
afraid of it, and don't have really core concepts about why asparagus is different than a steak. And, we all understand that every time you set out to cook something, you're commencing on a physics and chemistry experiment. and it is the physics of energy and heat on the components of the food, the protein, the fat, the cellulose, whatever you're cooking, and the chemistry of how it changes with temperature. And so once people get a sense for the core concepts, then they can go crazy. But a lot of people just don't get the core concepts of either cooking or cooking outdoors, and how it's similar to cooking indoors and how it's different from cooking indoors.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, because we're just about run out of time on the regular show. First of all, Meathead's going to stick around for after hours. That's where we really have fun.
We
And
can curse.
yeah, I'm sorry.
We can curse.
We can curse, yeah,
Mhm.
which we do anyway. But we're going to do that. But give us a 15-second overview or recap of Barbecue Stars that you got.
You know I can't do anything in 15 seconds. 120 broadcast quality videos from 12 really talented pitmasters. They're going to be free to Pitmaster Club members as soon as we figure out the technology of hooking them up. BBQ Stars, you can go there and there's a teaser that shows you a sense of what's coming, and it should be available to Pitmaster Club members. Membership is $35 a year. You can get a 30-day free trial.
Cool. Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Leanne Whippen from Pig Powder. Don't forget your discount. Leanne, one more time real quick. BBQ Nation. Or
BBQ Nation Save, no spaces. So it's all
Okay.
one word, and you get 10% off of
There
your
you go.
order at pigpowder.com.
And don't forget, she'll autograph pictures for you too.
No.
We got to get out of here, but we're going to jump into after hours. So thank you for listening to everybody around the country on the radio. And this will be same weekend podcast version too. So remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. Go out, cook something, and have fun, everybody. Take care. Hey, welcome to After Hours here on BBQ Nation. Got to Leanne Whippen, Hall of Famer, my co-pilot on this endeavor, and we've got Meathead Goldwyn, or Meathead as we affectionately call him, from AmazingRibs.com, and this is the After Hours. Like Meathead said, this is where we can swear. Gonna do a little different After Hours instead of my standard kind of make your head scratch questions today.
You don't have a quiz for us?
You're gonna have a test at the end of this.
I
Okay.
was afraid of that.
Yeah. Meathead, what's your most favorite food to cook this time of year? Spring. We're almost to summer, but
we touched upon this during the regular spring. Absolutely. It's lamb and asparagus.
Yeah.
I just adore lamb. Now there aren't as many cuts on lamb. There's not as great a variation. It's a smaller animal. I mean, size of a big dog,
Right.
than a steer, which can weigh 1,500 pounds. But I love lamb chops, and I love them cooked to about 140 medium, pinkish to rosy, and it tends to go very well with the standard rosemary and garlic flavor profile. I just absolutely adore this stuff, and spring lamb is coming around.
Yeah. Leanne?
It's like spring, summer, year round here.
Yeah.
Here's where we get to demonstrate. We're in after hours.
Yeah,
lady.
I saw the hand gesture.
Rub it in, why don't you?
I do like to cook, seasonal vegetables, lamb, like you said, but I cook lamb year round because I really do enjoy it. But anything that gets me out on the grill, makes me happy.
I was gonna show. I switched my background picture.
I saw that.
I see it.
Those are your raisin tomatoes in the middle of those two sweet pizza. I did.
Oh, you made the raisin tomatoes.
Yes, and I actually put them on a pizza I did for a show last year.
Yeah,
Very
they're good,
nice.
aren't they?
Oh, they're great. I can
Let me
just
let
sit-
me tell people about that. Jeff and I have talked about it on air before, but in case you missed it, my wife is a master gardener. She's actually got a certificate from University of Illinois, and she is serious about gardening. And she's probably out back right now, weeding and getting the garden ready. But she always plants cherry tomatoes, and 2 bushes is enough to drown you in cherry tomatoes. And
Yeah.
I mean, they're marvelous. We love them on salads or on pizzas and stuff. But I once had this goofy idea, and I brought a handful of them in, and I stabbed them with a sharp knife and threw them in the smoker at a low temperature, and they dehydrated and shriveled to the texture of raisins. And in the process, the sugars concentrated to the sweetness of raisins, and they had a smoky flavor. They're fantastic. If you find yourself this summer, August comes rolling around and you've got a ton of cherry tomatoes, and you can do this with other tomatoes. You can do it with Romas, or, you just poke some holes in it, or with Romas, I cut them in half and just throw them on the smoker at a low temperature. Takes hours. You don't want to burn them, you don't want to cook them, you don't want to dry them out. You just want to turn them into raisins. And they're sweet, and they're smoky, and they're fantastic on pizza, in pastas, in salads, focaccia. We make a bunch of them every August, and they last us a full year, and we have a lot of fun with them. And people, they first taste them, and it's like their eyes bulge out.
Well, and I'll tell you, they're a hell of a lot cheaper than going to if you like sun-dried tomatoes.
Yeah.
These are, you know, 2 cents for a ton that
Yeah.
you could do. Sun-dried tomatoes, not that cheap. So
Right.
little,
Yeah.
little.
And I throw them in the freezer.
Yeah.
Although they probably would keep in the fridge because they're dehydrated. There's that you want them still tender like a raisin. You don't want them
Right.
hard.
Right. No, they're really good, and I've used them a number of times. Like I said, I used them on a show last year, but I really, really enjoy them.
Me too.
So springtime, up where you live, out where I live, and all year round, down where what's her name lives down there in Florida with the nice weather. Jeez, fish. We get a lot of fish. Now, I'm not talking shellfish that you have an allergy to. I'm talking, all kinds of stuff.
Fish.
Yeah, Leanne's got a great picture, but she doesn't have it up today of some grouper she did like that. I look forward here. We have a spring salmon season. We call them springers, okay, and they're younger fish. They're not the big Chinooks like that. They're very tender. They're very flavorful. You can get a fillet, or you can cut them into steaks if you want, and you can, put them on your smoker, put them on your grill, however you want to cook them. And I always look forward to that because I've lived here most of my life, so I've always kind of grew up on those. But it's really enjoyable. What do you get in the Midwest?
Well, first of all, I am addicted to fish, and I was raised in Florida. I lived in Sarasota, just south of where Leanne is. I went to the University of Florida. We lived on the East Coast for a while near Cape Canaveral. So I'm a Floridian, and I'm a fish eater, and I moved to the Midwest, and it was a great source of frustration because, as anybody who understands fish knows, freshness is quintessentially important. And you have to handle it properly. It has to stay cold and moist. And by the time it gets to the Midwest, it's often not very good. And we didn't get a lot of fish. And, my wife would often say, "Hey, I'm going shopping. What do you want? See if you can find some fish." About 5 years ago, I heard an ad on NPR for a company called Sitka Salmon Shares. And I'm not being paid to say this. It's now called Sitka Seafood, I think. They changed their name. But they're out of Sitka, Alaska. And they were just small independent fishers who had their own boats. They were not big gill net people. They were line catching fish, salmon, halibut, sable, black cod, which is another name for sable. And they bring them in, and they're right at the docks. They had their own processing plant, and they would flash freeze. And if you're going to freeze fish, it's got to be frozen at a very cold temperature in a hurry. If you slowly freeze it, in like you would in maybe your home refrigerator freezer, the crystals get very large and they puncture the muscle fibers, and there's a lot of purge, they call it, or drip loss, and you get a lot of liquid loss. But these are flash frozen, so you get small, tiny crystals, and then they shrink wrap it and they ship it all over the country. And we're getting a box a month, and whatever they catch, it's, I don't control what's coming in. Although I think recently they do have some options on the website. I haven't looked at. I'm just happy to get whatever they ship me, and it's just pristine. It's as good as fresh. And I have fallen in love with sable, which is also known as black cod,
Right.
and it's brilliant. The stuff is just fantastic, and I feel like I'm back on the coast. And in fact, I just took my first vacation in 5 years, and we went to Vegas to see Seinfeld in the Sphere, and ate at Nobu, and I had his famous black cod with miso, and it was wonderful. And we're gonna make it here with. In fact, actually, I've reverse engineered the recipe. It's in my next book.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. So if you're stuck in the Midwest like me, they're not cheap, but it's reasonably priced. Take a look at Sitka Seafood, I think they call it now. It's not just Alaska. I think they've expanded. They're bringing in some Atlantic seafood and other things. But so far, everything we've gotten has just been fantastic. We had one batch out of monthly shipments for 5 years. One shrink wrap piece of fish, not a whole batch, just one piece of fish that the air had gotten in the shrink wrap, and it wasn't all that fresh.
So, Leanne, you like to go catch them and cook them.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have a son-in-law who has a boat, so he's an avid fisher person. So it's snapper, grouper, whatever it is, flounder. It's remarkable. I'm very fortunate.
So
And the
now,
Gulf, there's so much good seafood in the Gulf.
oh yeah, and you see the pictures of her. She sends me texts, and she's there smiling. She's been out on the water.
Yeah, I haven't been in a while though. I'm due.
Yeah, but you got out there and you're a little red. Your face is a little red from being out there on the reflection, and she's holding up a fish, and I'm like, I hate you.
Nothing better. Nothing better.
So speaking of fish, like I said, we have lots of fish up here, and I've been fortunate to eat fish lots of places, and not only in the country, in the world, like you guys have. There's a fish that I do not like, and that's tilapia. I think it tastes like dirt. Okay. They're farmed. Most of them are farmed. I don't know. I haven't done that much research on them, if they're farmed in Mexico or if they're farmed in Vietnam or wherever, because a lot of the shrimp you buy are farmed in Vietnam, in over Southeast Asia, Thailand and all that. But I'm not a tilapia fan. So if you love tilapia, good for you. I just think it doesn't have a very good flavor to me.
To me, it's just kind of boring. It's a simple fish. I feel similarly about catfish. But I've never found it unpleasant. I'll eat it if it's served to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Maybe I just got a bad one, or two.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
I'm not a big tilapia fan. But like you said, the black cod, we have a lot of rockfish out here.
Oh, that's beautiful fish. We get some of that from Sitka.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I never knew about that fish. That's lovely.
Yeah. And it's to me, it's kind of the West Coast version of like a sole or something, in a way. It's a white, light fish. Different flavors, but different profiles, but I think it's really good. So let's skip past spring and go into summer. Not that you won't be on the show for the normal 4th of July, Father's Day, all that stuff too. But we're going into summer, and people start to roll out their grills. They get the little green urchins off the grates. They clean them up.
Mhm.
I've actually told my friends this, couple of them. It's like, if you haven't really cooked anything all winter, start with something simple like a burger or a dog's or something. Kind of start thinking about it. Don't go out and buy I mean, if you're confident in your skills, go for it. But if you don't do a lot of grilling or smoking or barbecuing, don't get a $45 ribeye and then forget it. Walk in the house and start watching the ball game and forget that it's on the grill. That's my suggestion. I would
I
like
agree.
both
That
of
makes sense.
yours.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you don't want to start off the season with a bad tomahawk.
No.
That would be bad.
Are you into tomahawks, meathead?
I like, well, tomahawk is just a ribeye with a whole big bone on it,
Right.
and I love ribeyes.
Mhm.
The rib cap, or the spinalis dorsi, the muscle that wraps around the ribeye, is my favorite steak on the animal. I love those
Mhm.
things.
Agreed.
If we were talking in the regular show too about ham. But if it's nice weather, hopefully it will be here in Oregon and Illinois. We know it will be in Florida. Maybe you might get a
Mhm.
hurricane or something, Leanne, but I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah. But if you don't want to do ham, what would be some suggestions for people if they were just having a Easter dinner for, say, 4 people? What would you suggest?
Who are you aiming at?
You always go
Me?
first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, chicken. I mean, everybody loves roast chicken, you know? I
Mhm.
mean, you can't go wrong. I like to break it down into parts so I can temp each piece individually and get it cooked to optimum
Mhm.
temperature. But, chicken is like a white canvas. You can season it any which way. You can put barbecue sauce on it if you want. You can put an Asian flavor on it if you want. It's awfully versatile, and you might do a turkey. It's not just for Thanksgiving. Turkey is great. And if you have more than 4 people, 6 or 8, a big turkey is a nice way to go.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned ham again, and something I forgot to bring up during the main show is, you said that you like to get the spiral cut, and the
Yes.
reason spiral cuts are so popular is because carving a ham is a little weird.
Yeah.
It is.
There's a knee bone in there. They're 2 bones, and they're hinged at the center, and it's a little tricky. And I commissioned an artist to draw how to carve a ham. And go to AmazingRibs.com and look at the ham recipes. In one of those recipes, you'll see the technique for slicing down to the bone and then slicing across, and how to get it carved up neatly if you don't buy the spiral.
Leanne?
That's very helpful. Um, I even have trouble with some of the spiral hams.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they aren't cut all the way through, you know what I mean? Um, but you're just talking about summer foods, Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, what do you like to do? Or Easter, if you don't want to do a ham or anything like that,
Well,
knowing
it's funny
you
that Meathead had mentioned chicken because I think that's somewhat overlooked and it goes a long way. It's affordable. I think it's festive. Um, you could put a good dry rub on it. You don't necessarily have to use barbecue sauce. I love Meathead's poultry seasoning, my favorite of all time. Some of that on the grill would make me very happy.
there you go. There you go. I want to get back to the spiral cut ham. So have you ever seen the machines that they cut them with? I
No, I
No.
have,
bet that's way cool.
yeah, I have not either. So
I bet there's video on YouTube.
probably,
There's
probably.
video of everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Some videos you don't actually want to see are on YouTube, but they're there,
Right, right.
But uh I like Leanne, depending on where you buy it. Now, like I'm a honey baked ham proponent. I've loved them since I was a little kid. That's just what I like. But Kroger's up here, it's Fred Meyer's. They have a very nice honey. They don't call it honey baked ham, but they call it a spiral cut fire roasted ham, and it's got the brown sugar glaze on it and all that. But
Mhm.
if you look at it, if you actually look at the bone after you've taken all the ham off, there's cut marks in the bone too. So that's why I asked about the machine.
Mm,
Do you
must
save
be-
the bones and make split pea soup?
Oh yeah. Or I like split pea soup, and I also like navy bean soup, or white
Mhm.
northern beans, that type of thing. I love that. So
Leanne, when you do ham, do you
Mhm.
get it with the skin still on? And if you do you take the skin off or do you leave the skin on? Do you crosshatch it? How do you handle
Skin
skin?
on, crosshatch, just because the skin is like a barrier, so you need to impart the smoke, and cross hatching will do that, and it's pretty.
Do you
Yeah.
eat that skin?
I do not, but when I have it on my plate, I just kind of put it off to the side. But some people do. It can be a little tough.
What do you do with it when you're setting up a table in a motel room on your bed with a
I
and
There's an
I
inside
don't bring
story here
I
that I
don't
need to
bring a
hear.
ham.
I need to hear the background on this one, guys.
when we
What
were
are you doing in Leanne's hotel room?
I wasn't
No,
there. I
no,
wasn't
it's
there.
when I travel, I turn my bed into a somewhat of a dining room table, and with the bath towel and a toilet paper roll, and Jeff gave me some really nice fake flowers that I set up a nice little centerpiece. So I try to make it festive.
Yeah, it was very festive. And here's another tidbit you don't know, and then we'll wrap this up,
Mhm.
Meathead. If you want to get on Leanne's really good side, you need to
Mhm.
send her peanut M&Ms.
Yeah,
This
Oh, I love
woman,
love M&Ms.
she will walk
Yep.
through fire for
Yeah,
peanut M&Ms.
I do like them a lot.
I
Yeah,
agree.
they're good.
Yeah.
Meathead Goldwyn, as we refer to him as Meathead. Meathead Goldwyn from AmazingRibs.com.
It's hard for you,
It's
isn't
going to
it?
take a while to break into that habit.
It is.
Just for listeners here,
Yeah.
I've asked Jeff just to refer to me as Meathead. I'm trying to build a brand here, folks.
Yeah.
And I have I'm one name like Madonna and Cher, only I have a little more hair than they do. And
It's a tough transition.
he's so conditioned to referring to me as Meathead Goldwyn, but it's good old Meathead, just like the cover of my book says.
There you go.
Hey,
Oh,
speaking of your book, when's your new one coming out? Any updates on that?
Yeah, it is. I'm in final edit now. The editor has
Good.
gone through it. We've had the backs and forths, and I will turn in the final edit in about 2 or 3 weeks. And then it goes to layout design, cover design, printing, packaging, and it'll be out in the spring next year. It takes that long.
Isn't
Yeah.
that something? Yeah, it is a process.
There's some good stuff in it though. I've tried to make sure that it was all different and new, and I've brought in some fun technique, cooking with koji,
Mhm.
how to turn your big green egg into a Indian tandoor, all kinds of fun stuff. So hopefully it will be a worthy sequel.
Good.
I-
Looking forward to it.
I like it when he says the back and forth between him and the editor,
Mhm.
because when you talk about swearing, I've talked to him a couple times.
I got to tell
you,
you, the book has she has moved this book in a direction that I didn't anticipate. But I've learned. I've been a writer all my adult life. I mean, I'm 75 now. I've been writing professionally since I was 21, or maybe closer to 20, and I've learned the value of editors. And so I don't argue with them often. There's give and take. But the book was, the working title was The Meathead Method. It is now Meathead on Fire. She thinks that's sexier and it will sell better. There was some stuff that I really wanted in this book, but space made it hit the cutting room floor. A lot of it hit the cutting room floor. In fact, I just sat down and barfed up everything I could think of onto the manuscript, and when I was done, I had enough for 2 books, and she said, "No, we're." I went to her. I said, "Can we do a 2-book set?" There's never been a 2-book set.
Yeah,
I
that would have
mean,
been cool.
it would have been cool, and then it would have subliminally stated this is the definitive guide, and they squashed that. So I've got enough content for another book laying around here. So we'll see whether there is. I swore I'd never do another book, and now I'm wrapping one up, and I have enough for another. So
Well,
God help me.
yeah.
It might be a little easier now that you have that,
Yeah, it's all written.
kind of sort of, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
the photography, which is gonna, I can't wait to see the photography. So
yeah, some of the photographs didn't make it, unfortunately, but well, the beauty of books, I've been making my living on the internet for years, and I love the internet, but it's just kind of like you jump out of the plane in a parachute and you don't know where you're going to land, and you land on, the brisket page or the ham page, and
mhm,
with a book, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it has a progress, and
mhm,
it's linked together, and it flows. And I really like that. I like, especially as we've discussed earlier, we're all educators here on this
mhm.
show today, and I want to be able to teach, and I want people to learn, and books do that really well.
Yes, they do.
Mhm.
Yes, they do. Meathead, thank you. Leanne, thank you. We
Thank
thank you
you.
all at home for listening. Uh, Next week, we'll answer the pressing question of how to get rid of the money muscle on a chicken. And until then, we want you all to enjoy yourself out there. And
That's good.
for everybody here, thank you. Remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. Go out there and cook something. And most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody.